welcome to the Standoff. My name is Matthew Hill. I'm the sports editor for Mustang News. Across the table from me is Anthony Molleson, a sports reporter for Mustang News. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Matt. Happy to be here on the Standoff. We're happy to have you guys join us here for our very first episode of the series. How this is going to work is me and Matt are both going to answer three different questions. We'll have 2 minutes to answer each question, and in that time, we're going to give you our opinions and analysis. And yeah, let's go from there. So first of all, Matt, you want to lead into this first question?
Yeah, first up right now, it's a hot topic in college athletics, the transfer portal. In the month of April, the NCAA announced that players are immediately eligible to transfer no matter how many schools they've been to prior, whereas before they had a one-time free transfer waiver. So let me ask you, Anthony, with this new situation going on, do you think Cal Poly is benefiting from the transfer portal? Is it hurting us? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and while I definitely see an argument that it is hurting Cal Poly when you look at some of the more major programs, major revenue sports within the program, I think that overall it actually is benefiting Cal Poly. And the reason for that is because with the teams that have been able to sustain success historically within Cal Poly, they've done a great job of being able to keep our athletes and develop their players and keeping them within the programs for their whole time here. And you look at other teams in the conference, other teams in the Big West, other teams in a similar scenario to Cal Poly, they haven't necessarily been able to do that in today's era of the transfer portal. And I think the reason that Cal Poly's been able to sustain success in certain sports like beach volleyball, women's soccer, wrestling, is because they've been able to keep these athletes. I mean, you look at just some examples of players that have come here as freshmen, stayed the course, reached success. You look at Emma Brown, Aiden McCarthy, Ryan Stafford, Ella Connor, Izzy Martinez, just to name a few players that have come here as freshmen, stayed the course, stayed here at Cal Poly, and really reached a high level of success both individually and also as a team. And I think that because of the message that these certain programs have been able to get people on board with their program, it's been a benefit to the portal in today's era.
Yeah, so you're basically saying that because the other, our opposing teams in the conference are dealing with the transfer portal, they don't have as much continuity as us, whereas, us at Cal Poly, we've had continuity. That's essentially what you're
exactly,
saying. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to take the opposite stance on you on that one. I mean, I think the portal has been hurting us. I mean, you look at football, men's basketball, and, definitely, those two sports, you just look at the landscape of college athletics as a whole, those two sports have the most transfers going, in and out, changing place, just because there's a lot of money involved in those sports now with NIL. But you just look at this past week on Tuesday, Sam Heward, following the spring game, he announced that he's entering the transfer portal. He's going to move on to, bigger programs in Cal Poly. Kobe Sanders, same deal, had a really breakout season this year, averaged 18, 19 points a game, third in the conference in scoring, earned honorable mentions in the conference. Now he's moving on to the University of Nevada, big program. They've had a lot of recent success. And, those guys, they want to go play at the next level. They want to get a shot to play in the NFL, in the NBA. That's their goal. And the way to do that is by moving up. So the problem I think Cal Poly is going to start running into moving forward is once we have these types of players that, they improve, they get really good here. And maybe, 10 years ago, those guys would have stayed here and, helped us, win championships at this level. Now they're just going to kind of move on to bigger programs. So essentially, if you're not in Cal Poly, not just Cal Poly, like the mid-major level as a whole, low to mid-major schools, is essentially going to become a stepping stone for players that start to excel at these levels to move on to higher levels, right? These Power 5 programs, they don't want to recruit freshmen anymore and have them develop, except for a handful, of course, the guys that didn't get drafted and things like that, one-and-done type guys. But for the most part, they're going to look at guys who are upperclassmen who've been playing at lower levels, getting that experience, and then they're going to, offer them, $100,000. They're going to move on to, bigger programs. And I think in the long run, that's going to hurt Cal Poly. And not only Cal Poly, I think just, mid-major schools as a whole. So I think right now the portal is hurting Cal Poly. And, we'll see how the NCAA landscape changes in the next 10 years, just with the amount of lawsuits that are going on against the institution. But right now, I think it's definitely hurting Cal Poly.
Yeah, and I certainly see your point, and I agree with you that it's hurting both basketball and football. But my whole thing is those are only two of the sports here at Cal Poly. I mean, you look at the other programs that I mentioned, such as wrestling, beach volleyball, track and field, cross country. The portal hasn't really affected those programs, and that's why I say overall, I think that it has benefited Cal Poly because I think it's still transferred. The portal has affected other schools, I would say. in those sports, and I just don't think that's the case here at Cal Poly. But I think that's about it for that topic. You want to transition in the next one?
Yeah, so next we can go a little bit into Cal Poly baseball. So after finishing last season with a 21-35 record, finishing 7th in the Big West, fast forward to this year, 1 year later, and this team is currently 26-16, nearing a double of their win total last season, and can possibly win their first Big West title since 2014. So Anthony, what would you consider a successful season for the Cal Poly baseball team?
So I have a pretty simple answer for this one. I say that it's already a successful season for Cal Poly. And I know that that's probably not the attitude within the clubhouse. Obviously, they have aspirations for a regional tournament, maybe an NCAA tournament appearance. Their ultimate goals are probably higher than finishing 4th place in the Big West, which is where they currently sit right now. But I mean, you look at where this team was last year, they were 14 games under 500 overall, 11-19 in conference. They weren't sustaining success in their conference, in the Big West. And now you look at this year, they've won series against CSUN. They've won series against Santa Barbara. Those are the 2 teams that are ahead of them in the standings, and they've been able to compete with these teams, compete with other teams in the conference. And I think that overall, just the step that this team's been able to take is why I would count it as a success. And now I know that there's still a chance that this team wins the Big West, and if they do that, my expectations will be shattered even more so. But going into the season, I didn't really necessarily have the expectation of this team going on to win a regional tournament. And so just them being competitive, competing for a Big West title, and just the overall drastic improvement from last year is why I would count it as a success.
Man, Anthony, I think the bar got to be higher. You look at the history of Cal Poly baseball. We've pretty much annually finished in the top 4 outside of last season, and COVID year was a little different, of course, but we're consistently in that top 4 realm. We're basically doing what we've been doing for the past 10 years since we've won that regional in 2014, or reached that regional, last Big West title we won. So I think the bar just needs to be higher, and I think this year they do have the talent to possibly do it. They had a really tough non-conference schedule, hopefully to prepare them to face off against top 10 ranked UC Irvine this weekend. Right now, on Friday, May 3rd, the series is about to start. The bar just has to be higher, I think. The success isn't what they've done. Success to me isn't matching what they've done in the years past. Success to me is going beyond that, winning the Big West, even if they don't win the Big West, because UC Irvine's it's a pretty tough opponent, getting second and possibly making a regional. To me, that is my definition of success for this team, and I think they have the talent to do it as well.
Yeah, and I hear that point. I think it just comes down to us having different definitions of success, right? For me, it's more of like expectations things. I'm thinking about the expectations that this team had heading into the season, coming off last year, and how they fared against those expectations. And I think they've exceeded those, and that's why I count it as a success. But I see your point.
Yeah. All right, we can move on to beach volleyball. So, last year they finished 15-25, and now are 30-6 right now. Finishing regular season play, Big West play. They actually just swept their first round matchup in the NCAA tournament against Arizona State in Gulf Shores, Alabama, which is where the NCAA tournament is being held currently. So, Anthony, what would you say has been the biggest driver of success for Cal Poly beach volleyball this year?
Yeah, I think the simple answer to this question is the head coach, the man at the helm, Todd Rogers. I mean, you just look at the individual success for this team, and it's been outstanding. You got 4 AVCA All-Americans, 10 players that earned Big West honorable mentions. You got Big West Freshman of the Year. And while obviously it's taken these players to reach their potential and take into the coaching, I think that is just a testament to Todd Rogers and the message that he's preaching to this team. And I mean, he went and earned his 4th Big West Coach of the Year. That doesn't happen by accident. And I think that you got to look at the man at the helm when you're thinking about the success of this team overall.
Yeah, definitely don't want to take anything from Coach Rogers, because he's done a great job in his time here. And actually, one of our reporters, Katie Wright, she just came out with a story kind of previewing the NCAA tournament for beach volleyball. And one of the main quotes that my takeaway from that story was he's trying to shift this team's mentality from being an underdog and playing up to competition versus recognizing that they're the better team in this situation and they set the standard in terms of how they should play. So I think those are all really big things. At the same time, though, you got to give credit to the players as well. It's another year of experience for a lot of members on this team. And you interviewed the pairing of Ella Connor and Izzy Martinez, and one thing they mentioned was Ella was the one who played last season, right?
Yeah, Ella missed last season.
Ella missed last. So Izzy Martinez was talking about how last year she was just getting served, every single possession and they didn't beat a ranked team the entire season until the Big West tournament when they made kind of a Cinderella run a little bit to reach a championship. Unfortunately, they lost, but overall the season probably wasn't what they expected. But I think just another year of experience, facing kind of that beatdown early on, and now you come in, they came out on fire, won 16 straight games, had the longest win streak in the country. I think all those things have really built them up to this point. On top of, they brought in, a couple newcomers, Lindsey Sparks as well from UCLA. That was a big transfer as well. So with all those in mind, I think that has also been a really, really big driver of their success this year.
No, for sure. And I don't want to take anything away from the players because obviously it takes the players to go out and have the success. Todd Rogers isn't out there playing on the beach anymore. But I just think it's been an incredible season for beach volleyball overall. I mean, you look at last year, 15-25, to now competing for a national title. It's really been remarkable to see that turnaround with the team this year.
Yeah, keep an eye out for Cal Poly Beach Volleyball. They're taking on Florida State in their next matchup in the NCAA tournament. Well, Anthony, thanks for coming on today. That will be it for today's episode of The Standoff. Thank you for tuning in and looking forward to seeing you next week.